We're back again here for the last session of the day at Adobe Max 2017 at the Dell FMC campus. Come on in and take a seat. Join us. We've got our good friend Mike Dopsa here from Metal. He's going to be showing off some awesome stuff. And we want to thank Dell for having us here, help host this fantastic campus. My name is Paul Macri. I've been your host. You can also check out all these streams happening live right now. But you can also go onto our channel, YouTube channel. It's Future Media Concepts, and you can check out all these things and replay them once again for your pleasure. Without further ado, Mike Dopsa.
How's it going, everyone? Hope you're enjoying your final day of Adobe Max here. Adobe Max 2017, Las Vegas. Woo, yay! And for those of you joining at home, hopefully you've enjoyed all of our free sessions throughout the week. So what we're going to talk about today is unlocking the 360 immersive VR video workflow within Premiere Pro and After Effects. Now, for today's demo, I'm only going to be operating within Premiere Pro, but these effects will also be available in After Effects. So if you're unfamiliar with 360 video, we're going to give you a brief rundown, and then we're going to get into the effects here. So I myself am a filmmaker, photographer, have been for the last 10 years, and I've become obsessed with storytelling through the visual medium. Now, with 360 video, it's a sphere around your head. You're immersed in this 360 virtual environment, and the implications for storytelling and immersion and bringing you and the storytelling together are just incredible. However, the workflow up until now to get even simple edits done with 360 footage has been very difficult. But thankfully, due to Metal and Adobe and some partnerships, it's becoming a lot easier, and I'm going to show you just how easy it is to convert your workflow from a 2D workflow to a 360 workflow. So, what are we talking about here? This is a 360 video. It is in what's called the equirectangular format. You may have heard that before because it's the same form as the world map. So you take a globe or a sphere and you want to stretch that projection into a flat 2D rectangle. That is what we are seeing here. And this is just a standard MP4 video, and you can import it. It's 30 frames a second, just like you would with any other footage from any other camera. And so that works just fine in Premiere Pro. I'm going to go ahead and make a new timeline. And let's just bring this over here. So here's my footage. But as we can tell, it's a little wobbly. Sometimes, especially if you're manually stitching, sometimes you get footage that is imperfect, doesn't quite have a horizon line that looks like a horizon, and that's something that you're going to want to fix before you actually output your video and put it in the headset, or else your entire world is going to be sideways like this. And that's not very comfortable, especially if you're going to be in that experience for many minutes at a time. So what are we going to do here? At the bottom, we've got these brand new effects that are going to make their way, or are going to be found in Premiere Pro and After Effects 2018. So I'm running 2017 for this demo, so it's going to look slightly different. But you at home with 2018 are going to type in VR. I'm going to type in Skybox. Again, this is just for the demo at home. You're going to type in VR. And we're going to find Rotate Sphere. Now, this is a standard video effect. I'm just going to bring it onto my timeline, drop it onto the clip like I would with anything else. And I can go into my effects controls just like a regular effect, and I can see what we've got going on here. So this motion panel, sometimes you can do some rotation here, or I could, maybe scale something or shift it around. These are designed for 2D videos or regular rectangular videos, and unfortunately that's not going to do anything to help your 360 workflow, so we can go ahead and close that motion panel. What we're interested in is this Rotate Sphere. So we've got 3 parameters. We've got tilt, pan, and roll. This will work for monoscopic or stereoscopic image, which is 3D if you have it. We're working in mono today. So I'm just going to play around with these, and as you see, it's going to adjust the image, but it's not adjusting it in what seems like a flat or consistent normal way. It's actually adjusting it with respect to the equirectangular distortion. So the bottoms of the image are stretched out because that's the bottom of your sphere, and the top is also stretched. And then your sides here on the left and right, those actually connect together. So it'll look like it's kind of spinning around a circular loop here. But what we're going to be able to do is roll this image until we see that our horizon line is corrected. So what would this actually look like? Well, I'm going to bring the distortion back. This is my VR player. I don't have a headset, and I know I can't show all of you in a headset today, but this is what it would look like if I had this footage in a headset. As you can see, it's very crooked. And the further I look around, the less comfortable it becomes. That's supposed to be down, but actually my ground should be somewhere over here. So that's not a lot of fun. So I'm going to bring it back, and I'm going to make the correction again, correction adjustment. There we are. So now as I look up, my horizon is straight, and as I pan around, you can see that I have a normal looking image. Everything is flat and in its right spot. And what I can do from here is now I can pick my center point. So it seems like my center point is just the middle of this beach here, but I actually like the way this rock looks. So I'm going to take the pan, the y-axis, and I'm just going to slide this until I'm happy with my center point. Okay? And I'm going to look back in the headset viewer or the VR viewer and see this is where I would start. So if I were to put a headset on for the first time, this would be my center. Now that's a much nicer place to start. Encourages me to look around the image. Great. So that's just one of the simple effects that you can do that really enables your 360 workflow, because without this kind of tool, if you have something crooked or something irreparable otherwise in your 360 footage, you're not going to have the ability to actually correct that or to adjust that, and then to do any cutting or storytelling or effects or graphics work. So that's the next effect I'm going to show you. This is called the Project 2D. So sometimes if you're making films, it may not just be a storytelling experience. Maybe this is some client work. You're doing this for an advertisement or promotion, and you need a company logo. So I've brought in the metal logo, just like this, on top of my footage. And my intention is I'm actually just going to put this right on the bottom here, because that's where I'd like it. I want to look down and see the logo. It'll cover up the little the piece of rock at the bottom, and let's just say right about there. I'm happy with that. So I've used the regular 2D motion tools to place this on the bottom of my image. Okay, seems to be fine. Let's check it out in the headset. I'm gonna look down and oh, okay. So that's not really what we expected. That's not what we want. If you were to present this to a client and that is their logo and it must be correct, this is grounds for getting sued and or never hired again. So you don't want to be using the standard 2D tools in Premiere Pro. So we're going to go ahead and undo this. Oh. We're going to go ahead and undo this here. There we go. All right, so instead, we're going to bring in VR. Again, you're going to type in VR. I'm going to type in Skybox. And we're going to project this 2D image into the sphere. And as you can see now, in my rectangular projection, the logo is completely distorted. And if I were to see it this way, it would appear as if that were wrong. But when I bring up the headset viewer, now I can see that the logo is correct, the lines are straight, It may not be exactly where I want it yet, but I can see that it is doing its work. So what kind of tools I have here in the Skybox Project 2D. Now, Project 2D, what does that mean? Does it have to be a logo? Does it have to be the metal logo? No. You could use text, you could use another video, you could use another image. Anything that is a regular image or video file will work in this Project 2D, and you can get creative with that for effects, for compositing. Maybe it's something on a green screen or with a transparency layer that you want to include in your sphere. So you have a lot of different options as to what you can do here. And again, as with all of the effects, it works in both mono and in stereo. So if you want to play around with some disparity, you've got those options available to you as well. So as I saw, the metal logo is a little bit too big for my liking, so I'm actually just going to scale it back a little bit. Let's bring it down to maybe 25. And then you'll see that I have two options here in the bottom: rotate source and rotate projection. So rotate source is going to adjust the actual 2D image or logo or whatever it is itself. So that's going to spin across the y-axis or the x-axis. But I'm actually happy with just keeping it flat here. So the only one I'm going to touch is rotate projection. Now, rotating the projection, that would be moving it within the sphere itself. So if we want to place it in the bottom, below you, to the right, to the left, anywhere, that's where you would be doing that. So let's go ahead and do that now. We can bring it a bit to the right. And I want to be standing just on top of this metal logo. Now, as we can see, as I move this, the distortion changes to appropriately match the equirectangular format. So imagine doing all of this stretching and distortion and all of that yourself manually. It's just simply not possible. The computation would be so difficult, and then if you wanted to keyframe it or animate it or anything like that, it would be an impractical workflow. This way, I can literally just choose where I want to place the logo. Let's say I want to stand right in between the square and the metal icon itself. I'm going to bring up the player again, and I'm going to take a peek. Looking down, and it's exactly where I wanted it. The distortion has been corrected because of its projection. And now if I export my equirectangular viewer, anytime I view this in a headset, I know that this is straight and that this is not going to get me fired or sued, which is great, because I think every filmmaker would appreciate that if they're doing client work. Now, being an effect in Premiere Pro and After Effects, we gain a couple of affordances. Notably, everything here is keyframeable. So if I wanted to make a simple little animation here, I could actually just click all of these stopwatches in my rotate projection, and a couple of frames later, I'm going to just bring it back to the center. So if I scroll back, you can see that this is going to do that animation for me, and I don't have to do any distortion correction. I don't have to do any of that. The software does it all for me. So if I wanted to follow someone, if I have a motion tracked object in my sphere, in my 360 video, if I want to put someone's name on them as they walk around in your video, you have total control and the ability to do that quite easily. Just show you what it looks like in the headset viewer here as well. So even in the headset viewer, you're not getting any distortion, you're getting a perfectly correct animation, and you only have to do that one time, one effect. It's all very, very, very simple within Premiere Pro and After Effects. All right, so these two effects are some of the many that are going to be included, like I said, in 2018 CC, Premiere Pro, and After Effects. However, Metal is also creating additional series of effects, and I'm going to show you something from our newest series called Mantra. So I want to make the distinction. This is not going to be included automatically in every 2018 copy. This is an additional plugin called Mantra. and we're going to be able to do some very, very interesting things with Mantra. So let's get a new video in here. So I'm going to make a new timeline, just like a regular video, and this is in the Bavarian Alps. Let's see it in the headset viewer here so you can see what we're looking at. And now, I mentioned that this is the equirectangular format, right? This is a sphere or a globe that has been stretched to be viewed as a rectangle. But what's the best way to view a sphere or a globe? Well, how about as a globe? So we're introducing the Metal's globe preview along with Mantra, and that's this here. So this is a perfect representation of what's in my image being represented here on the right as a globe. And this is completely interactive. So if I want to click and drag this, I can quickly check any changes that I've made, any effects that I have applied, and I can make sure that it is where I expect it to be. If you're looking only at the distorted, warped equirectangular, sometimes you can get a little disoriented or you can lose your bearings, and it's also a bit tricky or a bit time consuming to constantly be putting on and taking off a headset if you're making hundreds and hundreds of little changes or you're trial and erroring. So having this globe preview is really great, and what's even better is that as I press play, it's actually updating in real time, and I'm going to be able to see any animation or any effects that I've applied accurately represented. So let's talk a little bit about this globe preview. There's a couple things here. Number one, we've got grids. So as I showed you in that last image, sometimes your horizon is not straight. Having a perfectly grid-locked horizon is now easy to visualize, and it's not just going to be you trying to determine it for yourself. You're actually going to be able to use this as a reference and a guide. And you'll notice that it's labeled at the different polar positions, so I can check the bottom to make sure that it's exactly where I expect it to be. I can check the top for the same reasons. And I've also got this little cube preview over here, and I can click to certain parts of the image, and it's just going to spin me there automatically and make sure that everything is where I expect it to be. Now I'm going to turn off this grid and double click on the globe itself. And now we're going to be going inside as if we were in the headset. So I can zoom in, I can zoom out, and I can click and drag around. Again, you know, this is much quicker and much faster than if I had to take on and put off the headset every single time. And also it gives me the ability to spin it around and just watch it from every angle, and then double click back into my globe. All right, so that's an amazing preview, and especially with some of the more dramatic, kaleidoscopic, and redistributive effects in Mantra, this can be a really, really great tool that will not only save you time, but it's a lot of fun to use. So I'm going to show you first a new effect from Mantra, and this is one of my favorite effects. So this is called Mobius Transform. And it's been coined, and probably a better name for it is the virtual dolly. So when you're filmmaking in 2D rectangular, it's quite easy to scale up an image, crop a piece, and slowly push in as if you have a virtual dolly in software. Or, you know, if you want to add a little bit of drama to a static scene, or any number of reasons why you would want to move the camera after the image has already been shot. So if we were to try to do that with an equirectangular, well, we'd run into some problems. If you scale up, that means you crop. And if you crop any of these side pixels, that is going to be eliminating whole portions of the globe or of your sphere. So what I would get is a massive stitch line. I'd have a hole. It's not actually 360 anymore. My friend is gone. I don't know where they went. It's just an unacceptable way to try that. So that will not work. So instead, we've created a piece of software that is actually going to zoom, scale, and compress within the sphere without distorting your image and without compromising your horizon line, and it's still really, really easy to use. So let's check this out. First things first, you want to find your zoom in and zoom out points. Effectively, what you're going to do is choose the point that you want to move towards. That's your zoom in point. So I see this nice bridge here. I want to move up the stairs, and then I'm going to select my zoom out point, and I want to move away from the back of the stairs. So if I look at this in my globe preview, I'm going to be hopefully going up in this direction and going away from that direction. Okay. Then I'm actually going to toggle the animation and start a keyframe here while my zoom factor is at 0. I'm going to move a few frames forward in the timeline, and I'm going to increase my zoom factor here to, let's just do a nice slow little push here. I'm going to bring that to 7. So I'm going to show you this here. It's automatically bringing that animation forward. And I just want to pause and mention, this is 4K, this is 4K, and the footage that I'm working on is 4K. All of this is being run off of last year's Dell mobile workstation, which is incredibly impressive. My PC at home can do this, but to see it in a laptop or in a portable form factor that I could carry around with me is just incredible. So shout out to Dell for being able to do this kind of effects work on the go. So in the viewer, I'm going to take a peek and I'm going to play this back again. And as you see, it looks like we're zooming forwards. Okay. So if we're zooming forwards, let's check to see on the right, which would be here. You would expect that this would be moving backwards. And well, it is. And to the left, the same thing. And in the back, where you would expect any errors or any distortion, stitch lines, or major horrendousness to appear, there's absolutely nothing. It's completely stitched the way that it was. It's just slightly smaller. So what does this actually look like? Well, I'm going to look down at my feet, and I'm going to be able to see that the world underneath me is pushing itself backwards. So because 360 cameras have access to and view the entire world around you, as it stretches one side, the rest is being pushed and compressed around you, and it really does simulate and gives you the sense of movement in post. Why is this so important? You know, why can't you just put a dolly on it? Well, as I'm sure some of you guys have already figured out, when you're shooting 360, it seems obvious, but you can't hide from the camera. You really can't. There's absolutely nothing that hides from the camera. You can build a dolly rig, but you'll see the tracks and you'll need perfect terrain. Or you could build an RC unit, but those are going to be very expensive, very large, and of course they'll have limitations as to where you can actually move as well. So what happened is, most filmmakers have opted to going to a monopod because it's easy to stitch out, or a tripod. But what that ends up is, you know, you have so many films that are locked from one perspective. And granted, there are many great stories you can tell that way, but the ability to add camera movement, to suggest, hey, maybe you should look in this direction, or maybe you might want to see the world from a slightly grander viewpoint. You can use Mobius Transform to do all of that in post to effectively eliminate the limitations that are afforded by 360. And there we are. So this is one of only a few effects, 16 different effects, sorry, that are built into Mantra. And they are all based on this redistributive property, and they are all going to be functional with any equirectangular video, be it stereo or monoscopic. and I'd love to be able to show you more in the headset if you're here at Adobe Max. It is a very, very, very convincing effect, and I can't wait to see what creative people are going to be doing with all of these effects and the affordances of bringing movement and bringing control back to the creator in post, and not having to worry about massive rigs or any major major changes to their editing workflow. This should be as simple as buying a new camera and importing the footage from that, and hopefully you've learned a little something today and you're excited to use Mantra, and I can't wait to see what everyone's going to be doing as well with the effects built into After Effects and Premiere Pro. Of course, if you have CC 2018, Premiere Pro and After Effects, you can download it right now and you can get going and start making some 360 videos. All right, thank you so much.